There are moments when the sky refuses to stay silent, when shadows move against the stars and strange lights hover as if watching us. What you're about to see is not just a story, but a piece of a mystery that has haunted humanity for decades. On X-Site, we dare to ask the questions others avoid. What are these cigar-shaped crafts? Why do they appear without warning and vanish without a trace? Could they be visitors from beyond, or something far closer than we dare to imagine? Stay with us, because tonight's journey may challenge everything you think you know about the world above. The neighborhood was quiet, the kind of quiet that falls just before dusk when the world holds its breath. Daniel walked along the familiar street with his old shepherd dog, Rusty. The late afternoon sun stretched long, golden fingers across the pavement, painting rooftops with a soft amber glow. A breeze stirred the leaves, carrying the faint scent of grass and rain-soaked earth. Then something broke the stillness. Out on the horizon, above the line of distant hills, Daniel saw it. At first, he thought it was a plane, maybe a private jet glinting in the sun. But the way it moved was wrong. Too slow, too deliberate. It didn't wobble or drift like a balloon, and it wasn't accompanied by the familiar hum of engines. Daniel narrowed his eyes. The shape was long and smooth, like a silver cigar floating on invisible currents. A metallic sheen ran across its body as though polished by alien hands. He felt a strange chill crawl up his spine. Rusty stopped walking, ears perked, and gave a low whine. Instinctively, Daniel pulled out his phone and began recording. Through the camera lens, the object looked even stranger, dark, solid, and eerily perfect in shape. His hands trembled. "What is this?" he thought. Every frame he captured felt unreal, like a piece of another world bleeding into his own. There was no sound. No birds, no distant car engines, no wind. Just silence, heavy and unnatural. Even Rusty crouched down, tail tucked, as if the air itself had turned electric. Daniel's heartbeat thundered in his ears as he followed the object with his camera. He couldn't know it then, but this shaky footage, captured on an ordinary walk, would ignite debates among UFO researchers, skeptics, and believers worldwide. When Daniel reviewed the footage later, every detail burned into his mind. The object didn't simply float. It hovered with an uncanny stillness, as though anchored by forces unseen. For a moment, it seemed almost alive, observing, calculating. Suddenly, the craft shifted, not like a plane banking in the wind, but with the precision of something guided by perfect control. It tilted just enough to catch the last rays of the sun, revealing a smooth, seamless surface. No rivets, no panels, no sign of propulsion. It was as if the thing had been sculpted from a single piece of dark silver metal. Then came the pulse. A faint light shimmered across its body, traveling from one end to the other in a soft ripple, like moonlight on water. It wasn't the cold, mechanical flash of a navigation light. It was organic, almost deliberate, like it was communicating. Later, Daniel would struggle to describe the feeling. "It felt like it was scanning me," he said, "like it knew I was watching." The air around him felt thicker. Rusty whimpered, ears flat. A pressure built in Daniel's chest, as if something invisible was pressing down. His phone screen flickered for a split second, static like interference, just as the object began to move. And then, without warning, it shot upward. Not fast like a jet, but instantaneous. One moment it was there, the next it was gone, vanishing into the clouds as if the sky itself had swallowed it. No sound, no trail. Just empty air and the distant rumble of Daniel's breath. The entire encounter had lasted under 2 minutes, yet time felt distorted. Standing there on the quiet street, phone still in his trembling hand, Daniel realized his world had changed. He had seen something no one could explain. Daniel's footage didn't take long to spread. By the next day, the video was everywhere on local news broadcasts, social media feeds, and UFO forums buzzing with excitement. The comments ranged from curiosity to disbelief, yet one thing was clear: no one had ever seen anything quite like this. The clip was analyzed frame by amateur researchers who pointed out the unusual details. There were no wings, no heat distortion from engines, no blinking lights like on commercial planes. The object's smooth metallic surface and its sudden vertical launch challenged every known principle of flight. A retired Air Force pilot, Colonel Jack Mercer, was among the first experts to comment. He had flown fighter jets for over 2 decades, but even he was stunned. There is no conventional aircraft that can hover in complete silence and then accelerate upward at that speed. This isn't a helicopter. It's not a drone. I don't know what it is, but it's not ours, Mercer admitted during an interview. Skeptics, however, had their own theories. Some claimed it was a blimp, distorted by the angle of the camera lens. Others argued it was a misidentified commercial plane reflecting sunlight. One scientist even suggested a weather balloon caught in a thermal current. But these theories fell apart when viewers pointed to the craft's sudden burst of speed, something no blimp or balloon could replicate. UFO researchers had a different take. They believed Daniel had captured a cigar UFO, a shape described in countless sightings going back to the 1940s. Some ufologists believe these elongated crafts are motherships, massive vessels carrying smaller saucer-shaped scouts. "This footage is remarkable," said Dr. Elaine Foster, a well-known UFO investigator. "The cigar shape, the silent hovering, the light pulse, it matches reports from witnesses all over the world. These crafts are not new. They've been here observing us for decades." Meanwhile, the public's fascination only grew. Online, people began sharing their own encounters. Stories of strange, cigar-shaped shadows crossing the night sky, of silent objects gliding over highways, of sudden bursts of light that vanished without a trace. Daniel, who had never believed in UFOs before, now found himself at the center of a storm of speculation. He gave a short interview, his voice quiet but steady. "All I can tell you is what I saw. I don't know what it was. But I know it wasn't a plane. It wasn't anything I've ever seen before." The day after Daniel's sighting, strange things began to happen. It started subtly, barely noticeable, like whispers in the background of reality. Daniel awoke early the next morning, still shaken by the events of the previous evening. As he walked Rusty back to the same street, the dog suddenly froze. His fur bristled, and he refused to move any closer to the spot where they had stood when the UFO appeared. His tail curled between his legs, and a low, uneasy growl vibrated in his throat. The air felt different here, heavier as if it carried an invisible weight. Daniel stood still, his eyes scanning the sky. Nothing, but he felt it. A faint tingling on his skin, like static electricity crawling over his arms. When he returned home, his phone started behaving strangely. The battery, which had been fully charged, drained by nearly half in just an hour. The screen glitched, flashing with strange white lines for seconds at a time. Later, his neighbor, Mrs. Carter, knocked on his door. Her voice was trembling. "Did you see it too? My television went out last night. All I saw was static. For hours, and my radio, it kept picking up some weird, humming sound, like it was alive." Daniel nodded silently, knowing she wasn't imagining things. Others in the neighborhood began sharing similar experiences. One teenager swore his drone, which he had been flying that evening, crashed suddenly as if an unseen force had pulled it down. Another resident reported that his smart home devices all reset themselves at the exact time Daniel saw the UFO. At night, people whispered about the lights. Some claimed to see faint, glowing orbs drifting above the tree line, vanishing when stared at too long. A few swore they heard a deep hum, so low it felt more like a vibration in the chest than a sound in the air. Daniel couldn't shake the feeling that something had been left behind. The spot where the UFO hovered felt different, almost magnetic. He placed a compass there one evening just to test it. The needle spun wildly, refusing to settle on north. It was as if the object hadn't just appeared and vanished. It had changed something in the air, maybe even in the ground itself. For Daniel, sleep became impossible. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw that pulse of light rippling across the metallic skin of the craft. It wasn't just a sight. It was a feeling, a presence. Something had looked back at him. Daniel's story might have ended there. Just another strange sighting buried under skepticism and forgotten over time. But what happened next proved this was part of something much bigger. Only days after Daniel's footage went viral, reports of similar cigar-shaped crafts began to surface worldwide. It was as if a sleeping phenomenon had been stirred awake. Poland, the mountain shadows. In the misty peaks of the Tatra Mountains, a group of hikers witnessed something eerily similar. As the evening fog rolled over the ridges, they spotted a long metallic shape, dark against the pale twilight. It moved silently above the treetops, turning slowly as if observing them. One hiker raised his phone to record, but the device froze, its camera refusing to focus. "It felt like it was looking right at us," one witness reported. "Not like a plane, more like an eye." Later, a second hiker captured a blurry image of the object just before it vanished into the clouds, accelerating so quickly that no one could track it with their naked eye. Vietnam, the twin shadows above the bay. Thousands of kilometers away, in a quiet fishing village along Vietnam's coastline, two fishermen encountered something that would haunt them for weeks. While casting their nets under the silver light of the moon, they saw two black, cigar-like silhouettes hovering over the calm waters. The objects did not move. They just floated there, as if anchored to some invisible point. Then one of them emitted a soft blue glow, illuminating the surface of the ocean. The fishermen described the water as quivering, like it was being touched by unseen energy. Minutes later, both objects disappeared in perfect unison, leaving only ripples behind. Canada, the passenger's footage. Not long after, a passenger on a flight over rural Canada captured footage of a dark cylindrical craft flying parallel to the plane. The object had no wings or tail, just a smooth, seamless body reflecting the pale sunset light. The passenger's video, later verified by other travelers, shows the object holding perfect speed alongside the aircraft, before tilting upward and vanishing into the clouds without a trace. Pilots confirmed that no known aircraft were detected on radar during that flight. The pattern emerges. As these sightings poured in, researchers began to notice a pattern. The cigar-shaped crafts always shared the same traits. Silent hovering as if defying gravity. A metallic sheen reflecting light in unnatural ways. Sudden bursts of speed disappearing in seconds. No heat signatures as confirmed by infrared analysis on some videos. Dr. Elaine Foster, the UFO researcher who commented on Daniel's video, returned to the news to warn the public. This is not just one isolated event. We're seeing a global increase in these sightings, all describing the same type of craft. If they are here, they are coordinated. Public reaction. Online forums exploded with speculation. Were these the motherships, often described in ancient UFO reports. Were they observing us, studying something on Earth, or preparing for something far larger? Daniel watched these new reports with a sinking feeling. His sighting was no longer a mystery confined to his quiet street. It was part of a bigger puzzle, one stretching across continents and oceans. As Daniel's footage spread across social media and news platforms, a heavy silence followed. It was not the silence of disbelief, but the kind that felt deliberate, as though someone, somewhere, wanted the world to stop asking questions. Major news networks briefly covered the story but quickly moved on, refusing to dig deeper. Local authorities declined interviews, stating only, "No unusual flight activity has been recorded in the area." The regional aviation office also offered no explanations. Yet Daniel knew what he had seen, and the footage he captured could not be dismissed. The strange phone call. One evening, while Daniel sat on his couch replaying the news segment, his phone rang. The screen displayed unknown number. When he answered, a calm, low voice spoke on the other end. "Mr. Cole, stop asking questions. For your own safety, do not pursue this any further." Before Daniel could respond, the line went dead. He stared at the phone, heart pounding, a cold weight settling in his chest. It was no prank, he could feel it. The black subs. 2 days later, Daniel noticed 2 black SUVs parked across the street from his house. Their windows were tinted, their license plates missing. Through the shadows, he saw 2 men in suits watching silently. When Daniel stepped outside with his camera, the SUVs slowly rolled away, not hurriedly, but with a calculated calm, as if to remind him that they were always watching. Official denials. Meanwhile, whispers began to spread online. Alleged military insiders claimed that cigar-shaped UFOs were monitored by NORAD and other defense systems, but never acknowledged publicly. One anonymous post read, "These objects are not weather balloons. They are not drones. They are tracked, but the public will never know the full truth." Researchers under pressure. Even Dr. Elaine Foster, the respected UFO investigator who had supported Daniel, began receiving subtle warnings. Her emails were hacked and her online accounts compromised. She confided to a colleague, "Someone doesn't want this footage analyzed. They're treating it like classified information." The weight of silence. For Daniel, the silence from officials spoke louder than any denial. If this was just a balloon or a plane, why the intimidation? Why the surveillance? Every night, as he rewatched the footage, the memory of that glowing pulse across the metallic craft haunted him. Deep down, he whispered to himself, "They know what it is, but they'll never tell us." The skies above us are not empty. They are alive with questions, with secrets waiting to be uncovered. Daniel's encounter is just one of many, a fragment of a puzzle that spans across continents and decades. But what do you believe? Were those lights just illusions, or is there something more watching from beyond the horizon? Leave your thoughts in the comments. Your voice might help us piece together this mystery. And if you want to keep exploring the unknown with us, subscribe to X Site, because this is only the beginning.